Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Peter.
Episode 177, recorded for the week of August 10th, 2022. The Cloud Pod hopes that Amazon knows the 3 laws of iRobots. Good evening, Ryan and Peter. How's it going?
Hello.
Hi there. It's going well.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jonathan was not feeling well, so it's not going so well for Jonathan today. But we're gonna continue on without him this week and get through our show once again here. We have lots of news, and we should probably jump into it because I think we have a lot to say. First up, Amazon and iRobot shocked the world by signing an agreement for Amazon to acquire iRobot. They're apparently buying one of its larger IoT customers with this announcement. The agreement is a merger agreement in which Amazon will acquire iRobot for $61 per share and an all-cash transaction valued at almost $1.7 billion, which will include all of iRobot's debt as well. We have a quote here from Dave Limp, SVP of Amazon Devices. We know that saving time matters, and chores take precious time that can be better spent doing something that customers love. Over many years, the iRobot team has proven its ability to reinvent how people clean with products that are incredibly practical and inventive, from cleaning when and where customers want while avoiding common obstacles in the home. To automatically empty the collection bin, customers love iRobot products, and I'm excited to work with the iRobot team to invent in ways that make customers' lives easier and more enjoyable. And my first thought was there's a lot of easier ways to hire Ben Kehoe.
Not sure that's true. Not cheaper, anyway.
I mean, yeah, cheaper. Yeah. But also, I sort of feel like Ben has really been a good advocate in the community to be kind of a thorn in the side of Amazon because he makes good cases of why some of the things they're doing aren't right. And so he's kind of that outside voice. He sort of fills, some of the void that we have here where we make fun of Amazon for things that are dumb. Corey Quinn, of course. There's Ben. There's many others out there as well from all works. But, to acquire one, then it kind of gags him. And so you sort of wonder if he has the same influence, but maybe he has more influence because he's now inside of Amazon, helping with the planning process, making sure that they're actually thinking about it from a customer perspective. I don't know. It could go either way. Or this is his time to taking my money and I'm going home. I don't know.
I mean,
I've not talked to Ben.
Yeah, is the acquisition going to be integrated on the Amazon Web Services side of the house or the Amazon side of the house? Seems like an Amazon thing. Right?
It's an Amazon thing, I would think.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the articles saying that what Amazon's really after is the in-home mapping technology that the iRobot has, which is kind of interesting. But there's got to be other ways to get that data than just buying iRobot.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because almost all of Amazon's big acquisitions have always been about something sort of indirect. With the Whole Foods acquisition, it was really about the logistics supply chain behind the scenes of moving that around. And they kept the brand, and they have the same footprint for stores as far as I know, no major changes. But now they have a lot more infrastructure for Amazon Fresh, and I suspect that iRobot, it's the same thing. Room mapping makes the most sense. That's the first thing I've heard that I can see how that would go. I'm surprised because that's a lot of money to pay for something that it's not public knowledge, but it's there's a lot of projects working on that sort of thing, from self-driving cars to other things. So there's a lot of communities and public work there to leverage. So it's interesting.
I feel like there's a lot of IP associated with that company that goes far beyond their current product line.
Oh, I mean, their patent portfolio, I think, is quite extensive. There's a lot of things that they're getting in this acquisition, in addition to a bunch of debt they probably don't want. But, getting the customer base for the robot vacuum and stuff is, can you now integrate Alexa into them? Can you do a bunch of other things you probably weren't doing before? You get the mapping technology and maps of people's homes. Maybe that opens up a new market for you to sell other devices or other things that can help in your home. I don't know. I am kind of curious to see where it goes after this closes, if it closes, because I'm not entirely sure this won't get a lot of antitrust scrutiny as well.
Oh, I don't know. iRobot has got a ton of little tiny competitors lately, where I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, but the problem is Amazon has the pricing power to basically undercut all those competitors and take a loss on the market and dominate. And so I think there's, the other players to iRobot are all very small. And then you give iRobot the power of Amazon's pricing, market, and supply chain, and you're like, okay, they can undercut everybody. I don't know. I think it's a question mark still.
I think I don't know if that would be antitrust until they actually do that, though. I don't know if they'd block a merger unless it's a really eliminating competition, like Amazon buying GCP and Azure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure on tech companies from an antitrust perspective in general. And, does this make them bigger in a space and that they are already competing in other ways? Because they did just release a robot product not that long ago. It's a little robot that goes around your house to be an assistant. But, is it a competitor or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if they have technology that Amazon wants to use in like distribution and warehouses.
Right?
Like,
could be.
Right?
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I always think about the consumer part of things, but yeah, no, they have a pretty interesting line of AI and
a lot of robots,
a lot of automation, and a lot of robots in the warehouses. It's a good call.
That's true.
All the people complaining that they hate working for Amazon in their warehouses, they might not have to have anything to complain about anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about even with the Prime Day recap, they were talking about all the routing they were doing for picking. Again, like if you put a camera on a person who could then map their route they're taking through the warehouse, then they could use that in machine learning to optimize routes further. So there's lots of options that this could unlock for Amazon. So I'm not entirely surprised they want to buy it, other than it takes a big customer out of the market. I also don't know that it's fully past antitrust, and we'll see what happens with Ben. I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but I hope this is a good thing for him. So.
Yeah, I think he'll have a lot more influence. I just think that unfortunately we won't have access to it.
So. He won't be able to publicly critique them in a forum at a Amazon event, because they'll be like, no, you need to be quiet. Like, don't scare the customers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Graviton Fast Start is a new program to help you move your workloads to AWS Graviton. It makes it easier for you to provide by providing you step-by-step directions for EC2 and other managed services that support Graviton and how to make that transition. They cover services like EC2, Lambda, Fargate, Aurora, RDS, Elasticache, and EMR, which most of those are just check a box and say I want on Graviton. So step-by-step instructions are pretty simple. The EC2 one might be a little bit more tricky, so a little bit curious to see some of those step-by-step guides. But nice to see them trying to get you on Graviton. Of course, there was a huge bunch of commentary on Twitter about the fact that you can't really get Graviton capacity right now on the Amazon cloud. They are a bit strapped for capacity on the Graviton chips. So, good luck to that. And there's also, they mentioned there's a free trial for the T4G instances up to 750 hours through the end of the year. Also, if you can get them. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, adopting Graviton isn't all that hard. But your binary does have to support working on an ARM processor. So it's like, I wonder if a step-by-step is really needed here, or like a tool saying like, plug this in, could you run it on Graviton or something? I don't really understand the difficulty here, but
I mean, again, if you have compile at runtime languages like PHP, Python, etc., like a lot of stuff just works on Graviton.
Just works,
just not a big deal. So again, it's all about your perspective on it, I think.
And anything you have to compile in advance, like it's pretty easy to compile for ARM alongside your Intel builds and all the, so it's just or depending on how complex your binary is, you can, create a network version of it. So it's probably good, but it almost feels like solving a problem that no one has. Maybe someone does.
Well, it's probably one of those things that someone's out there telling customers they should be using Graviton. They're like, well, we don't know what to do. And they're like, well, here's a click by click process. And then, for people who aren't as up to speed as you and I are, and Peter, maybe this is a market. We're the wrong demographic.
Yes, most likely.
Well, VMware has an announcement for the AWS cloud this week. They're helping organizations prevent breaches and security incidents with the announcement of advanced workload protection for AWS to help offer AWS customers better visibility over on-premise and cloud environments with VMware. The new release of VMware Carbon Black Workload will automatically gather and list vulnerabilities in AWS environments while providing a next-gen antivirus to analyze attackers' behavior patterns while providing endpoint detection and response capabilities. Woo.
So this is interesting. So it's just leveraging VMware's sort of native access to the underlying host OS to.
Well, I mean, like Carbon Black is an acquisition they did of a next-gen antivirus a while ago. Mm-hmm. The only thing I think that's really new in this is that they added vulnerability scanning, which why is it limited to AWS, other than maybe they got they want to do a press release that mentioned it. But yeah, it's a little strange. Yeah. I know AWS itself is a pretty big CrowdStrike customer. which is a competitor of Carbon Black. So maybe they felt this was something they could use to be competitive in deals. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's part of the continued diversification away from virtualization as your main revenue stream.
Well, CloudWatch evidently has introduced a new feature that allows you to define the target audience or the segment for experiments or launches using customer-defined criteria. For example, a customer can choose to run an experiment or launch a feature on a custom segment of Chrome browser users, early adopters of their service, and each segment can be configured to have served one or more variants of the feature, monitor key metrics such as page load times and conversions, and then dial up traffic for general use. Of course, for those of you who don't remember what CloudWatch evidently is, it's the second product that Amazon's developed to help you do feature flagging.
Yeah, it is sort of interesting because it's sort of like a back end feature flag and a front end feature, with app config, and evidently, like I'm starting to understand the different audiences, the different functions of these tools. And for someone who's not very front end, like this would be a huge enablement for someone like me who's got no idea how to like bucket test a UI change or anything like that. So this is neat. I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to use it, but hopefully it makes something easy.
Is it like OpsWorks versus Beanstalk?
I always think more of like application configuration, where you can enable a feature flag by changing the configuration of a running application versus sort of bucketing your incoming customer traffic and sort of redirect them so that they're seeing a version of your website that's slightly different than
A/B.
maybe the main user. It's just A/B. Yeah, A/B testing makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, AWS Lambda is now going to provide you tiered pricing for monthly Lambda function durations in gigabyte seconds of usage. The two additional pricing tiers provide discounts on your aggregate monthly on-demand function durations, and the tiered pricing takes effect on your monthly billing as early as August 1st. Customers can save up to 20%, depending if you're using over 15 billion transactions per month in gigabyte seconds. And the pricing tiers are broken down both by the function and the architecture specifically. So if you have a bunch of x86 and ARM, you only get the discount on all the x86 and all the ARM put together in the same region. Pricing is broken into the three tiers with up to 6 billion of gigabyte seconds for the first tier. Then from 6 to 15 billion gigabyte seconds, you'll get the reduced price. And then over 15 billion, you'll get the top tier discount. But although I would say that if you are a large customer who's using Lambda and you aren't on private pricing already, you were missing out already. So I guess you get this discount now, but most enterprise customers already had this through private pricing, from my experience.
Yeah, because does this take in consideration, like service plans?
Savings plan definitely is a factor, but I do think that the Lambda pricing, specifically on transactions, gigabyte seconds, if you're doing over 15 billion seconds of gigabyte traffic, you're talking to a product manager at AWS.
Yeah, fair point.
I guess. And so you already negotiated private pricing because that's a significant amount of volume and spend at that level.
Yeah, it's a weird place to introduce complexity if you're going to put it up that far, right? Like that much usage. I was all excited because I thought this was like a cost saving announcement, but I have to basically be running
6 billion gigabyte seconds.
Yeah, running the internet on Lambda. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so I mean, it's nice, but again, I guess it probably simplifies paperwork too. Like they don't, if this is the standard offer they're giving to most people on private pricing, well, great, we just made it part of our pricing model. Now we don't have to do private pricing deals as often because they do require lawyer time and negotiating and all that. So I imagine it's a reduction of toil for Amazon Legal more than it is a savings for most customers.
It's so crazy that they don't just flatten the pricing based on their scale at this point. I guess it's just revenue optimization, but man, they're obviously at scale where one individual customer isn't determining their scaling plan.
Agreed. Well, moving on to GCP, we have the zero ETL approach to analytics on Bigtable using BigQuery. This is apparently a theme for Google this month, where they're trying to make you moving data between their tool products less painful. That's all I can tell. But historically, you've been able to use ETL tools like Dataflow to move data from Bigtable to BigQuery to unlock the value. However, there are several shortcomings, such as data freshness issues, paying for twice the amount of storage you need, not to mention the pesky ETL pipeline itself, which troubleshooting ETL is always awful. Considering customers store terabytes or petabytes of data, this duplication can be super expensive, and the delays hinder your ability to derive real-time insights from up-to-date data. But no more. With the GA of Bigtable federated queries with BigQuery, you can query data residing in Bigtable via BigQuery faster without moving or copying the data in all Google Cloud regions with increased federated query concurrency limits, closing a long-standing gap between ops data and analytics. During the preview period of this feature, they heard two common patterns this solves. One is enriching Bigtable data with additional attributes from other data sources, like using a SQL join operator, such as BigQuery tables and other external databases, including Cloud SQL or Spanner, or file formats of CSV or Parquet, supported by BigQuery. Combining hot data in Bigtable with cold data in BigQuery for longitudinal data analysis over long time periods using SQL union operators is also another common use case. Making all those available to you is much, much better.
Yeah, this is super handy for, big, huge data sets where you want to track, some sort of trend through a long time, or it's always really difficult, and you end up always sort of compromising somewhere, either by not loading your full data set or querying your full data set, or because you can't get it from A to B, or trying to sort of run the query against two separate data sets and sort of like combining the results. And so this is a nice thing to have for those users who have data across these multiple places. Cool.
I mean, if you're going to take a global storage outage from Google for having a standardized storage tier, it'd be nice if you could take advantage of it, I suppose. It's like, I don't have to move my data.
The outage is a feature, not a bug. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if there were separate data stores, I would, I'd have less outage, but I'd have more spend. So, it's the trade-off you're making, I guess.
But if you need all your data stores up and you're spread across multiple services, then you're down every single time one of the services is down. This time you're only down when that one service is down. See that?
Yeah. True.
Joking aside, I really think that these are the type of features that drive people to use cloud services. That's not, doing this stuff is just not feasible on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that Google provides this capability to separate your data from your compute functions and store it independently and have that common store. I mean, like, that's a huge differentiator between AWS, right? Like on AWS, it's all about region failure and fault isolation and, reducing down, assuming the cloud's going to fail for you. And, Google has a little bit less of that, but they're also unlocking a ton of value where, today I need Bigtable, but tomorrow I need Dataproc. I don't have to redeploy all my data. It's the same GCS storage account for that as for everything else. It's not different. So, I mean, there are advantages. It's just you have to be aware of these advantages and the trade-offs that you're making in making these choices.
Yeah.
Google is announcing support for Windows workloads with the Certificate Authority Service. Cloud-based CAs are uniquely suited to the scalability and availability requirements of cloud-native environments. Organizations who have adopted cloud-based CAs increasingly want to extend the capabilities and value of their CA to their on-premise environment as well. Certificates continue to be the primary mechanism for identifying and securing enterprise endpoints and existing on-prem CA options, which continue to be complex and costly to operate and manage. With the Google Cloud CAS capability, you can use partner offerings to bring this on-premise to issue certificates to things like routers, printers, or users. But one of the most commonly requested features, apparently, for on-prem certificate enrollment is Windows auto enrollment using the Windows Active Directory Certificate Services capability. They can now do that with their partnership through AppViewX and the Google Cloud CAS now on-premise. So if you need that capability, it's good to have.
Yeah, this is one of those weird areas where if you're running a Windows workload, you're sort of beholden to using the Active Directory servers as your CA so that you can do that enrollment, but then you don't get any of the benefits of using a CA service, like being able to request and manage certificates via APIs or other programmatic means. And so this has always long been, at least contentious for me in my career, working with Windows admins who want the control of it, and they're like, "Why? What's the problem with just giving me a ticket when you need a new cert?" So this is a great thing to see because it's sort of the bridging of those two worlds, and I think it's actually making both sides of that equation have an easier go at it. So that's awesome.
If you're a Google Function user, you'll be happy to know that the Google Cloud Functions 2nd Gen is now generally available to you, delivering more events, compute, and control over your Cloud Function workloads. You continue to use your 1st Gen functions while you create your new 2nd Gen fancy functions. And there are several benefits of the new fancier functions, including instant concurrency, which allows you to process up to 1,000 concurrent requests with a single instance which can dramatically reduce your cold starts, improve latency, and lower your cost. There's faster rollbacks with gradual rollouts, so you can quickly and safely roll back your function to any prior deployment or configure how traffic is routed across those revisions for A/B testing. There's 6x longer request processing for your second-gen HTTP-triggered cloud functions for up to 1 hour. This makes it easier to run long request workloads, such as processing large streams of data from cloud storage or BigQuery. You can get a 4 times larger instance size, leveraging up to 16 gigs of RAM and 4 vCPUs on second-gen cloud functions, allowing larger in-memory, compute-intensive, and more parallel workloads, with 32 gig and 8 vCPU coming soon, as well as those are now in preview. There's pre-warmed instances, configuring a minimum number of instances that will always be ready to go to cut your cold starts and make sure that your application's bootstrap time doesn't impact its performance, as well as more regions, including Finland and the Netherlands, now available with second-gen cloud function. And by harnessing the power of Cloud Run's scalable container platform, second-gen cloud functions let you move your functions to Cloud Run or even to Kubernetes if you need to change in the future.
This makes me wonder, are they moving to Knative or away from Knative underneath the covers?
Yeah.
I mean, under the hood, I assume it's all Knative, right? Like,
yeah, it's just these are very big. These are very big changes. I mean, specifically the concurrency and the rollback logic there. That I wonder, why do they feel the need to create a whole separate gen of functions rather than adding incremental features to the existing? So if it was all
I assume
Knative,
it's a breaking API problem, right?
Yeah.
That was my guess, is that they broke the API in some way to support these new things, and so they had to make it a Gen 2. I mean, they're also now supporting 125 plus events through EventArc to trigger functions, as well as they give you some new capabilities for the UI and G-Cloud commands that you use, like for improved testing, customized dashboards, deployment tracking. So they did a lot in this.
Yeah.
And I just imagine their current API is just too limited to support that in Gen 1, and the breaking changes would cause other havoc.
/v2.
Yeah. I mean, these are great ads. So, I mean, it sounds like the right call. I think you make a good case for, having 2 different generations there. So for backwards compatibility, so you're not breaking all your existing customers, which is always, a googly thing to do.
Don't break customers.
Yeah. So that's great. That's nice. Some of these instances you can run for these functions are huge, but I'm sure that's for machine learning and other sort of AI use cases.
Yeah, I mean, the fact they call out data streaming and those type of use cases, they're thinking ML use cases where, I need to take a bunch of data in from BigQuery or big data and do something to it and then shove it back into something else. So, yeah.
And then shut it all down, right? So,
yeah,
because that's the real big advantage here. You don't have to have, like back in the day, a data center full of Hadoop clusters.
I wish they would give a really good write-up of when you should use Cloud Run versus when you should use Cloud Functions. Because the only thing I can think that's really differentiating them today is language support. But Cloud Run supports more languages than Cloud Functions does, and everything that's in Cloud Functions is in Cloud Run. So I don't know why I wouldn't just go that direction, unless price is a factor, I guess. But it would be nice to have Google would release a white paper on this. Just so
it's a sign of Google becoming, a real cloud. They've got multiple solutions for the same problem, and just confusing the crap out of me as I read the documentation.
Well, they also have a lot of products that are named very similar, like Dataproc, Dataflow. Like, like how many more data things can you have with another adjective after it? Like, I just don't know.
Yeah, I know there's been many conversations where I'm talking about Cloud Functions and I mean Cloud Run and vice versa, just because I can't keep them straight in my head, and I wish there were the same tool.
Well, and ideally that's what I want. I want the same tool. I want the flexibility and power, and I don't want to have to think about it. Yeah, but they unfortunately they both. So
Cloud Run seems more like what I'm familiar with functions than Cloud Functions does. So that's another little caveat where I'm just like,
I mean, Cloud Functions very much has a callback to the original Google Cloud offering when everyone was like, you guys are high. Like, why would I kill a transaction that runs more than 15 seconds? And like, well, that's the way we do it at Google. Like, well, I don't want to do it the way you do it. That's hard. So, it's Functions has a lot more legacy to it than the Cloud Run does, for sure. Well, for if you're looking for some new regions that are shiny and new, coming soon apparently is 3 new regions in Asia Pacific, including Malaysia, Thailand, and New Zealand data centers. The new Google Cloud regions will help to address organizations' increasing needs in the area of digital sovereignty and enable more opportunities for digital transformation and innovation in Asia Pacific. With this announcement, Google Cloud is providing customers with more choices and accessing capabilities from local cloud regions while aiding their journeys to hybrid and multi-cloud environments, said Daphne Chung, Research Director of Cloud Services and Software, IDC Asia Pac.
Great to see more options besides Australia and Singapore, and so that's great because there's been such a centralization that if any kind of impact or disruption there was always so impactful to just such a huge portion of the world.
Yeah, I guess it's a good DR location for like Sydney and Melbourne instead of going, I don't know where else they'd go. Singapore, I guess.
Usually Singapore. Yeah.
Singapore is one of the default. I mean, New Zealand's not great because if you're thinking about like disasters that'll impact Australia, earthquakes, all that stuff like that. But like the big fear is going to be tidal wave, which will take out New Zealand and Australia. So in the position that they need an West Coast option in in GCP to really give you a good DR solution in Australia. But yeah, as long as you don't have banks who care about Melbourne versus Sydney, you're fine.
I don't think you'll find the vertical nature of New Zealand. I think you'd be able, unless you put it somewhere really dumb, I think you can put it out of range of tidal waves.
You can put it up high.
Oh, I'd worry more about fiber cuts.
Like 5,000 foot fiber wave.
Yeah. I think, fiber cuts,
I think that's the issue,
boat
right?
drags and arc because it's hard. Those are so expensive that I don't know if there's enough diversity between Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah. In the Amazon space, you've got Australia, you've got Indonesia. They don't have, like, Malaysia is an interesting one. All I can think about is Flight 380, I think Malaysia. But, there's some interesting choices they're making in Thailand over Vietnam, for example. Manila is still kind of ignored. So it's interesting, but I find it funny to be announcing new regions when you can't even provide hardware for the existing regions. But, these won't even probably open until 2026. So it probably doesn't matter by then, is their hope.
Yeah. I can't even imagine what you'd run in New Zealand other than New Zealand workloads.
Well, I think that's part of the future-proofing concern, right? Is maintaining data sovereignty within these regions. And so you can see how you would want to maybe keep that local.
Yeah, could be.
Have you been waiting months and months to hire your new AWS, GCP, or Azure architect, only to have them be poached at the 11th hour by a startup with a juice bar? Initiatives stalled because you're having trouble hiring? Well, I have a simple solution: Foghorn Consulting. Foghorn Consulting provides top-notch cloud engineers to the world's most innovative companies and can be burning down your DevOps and cloud backlogs as soon as next week. Foghorn-certified AWS, GCP, and Azure professionals are armed with infrastructure as code, and from day one will be designing performant, optimized cloud-native or hybrid environments that deliver on the promise of cloud. Their FogOps solution even provides on-demand cloud engineering to augment your existing teams. Visit www.foghornconsulting.com or send an email to cloudtalentnow@foghornconsulting.com and tell them the CloudPod sent you. Your dedicated FogOps team is with you for the long haul, and they bring their own juice.
Off to Azure. Unity has selected Azure as its cloud partner, with the company working together to enable creators to reach their audiences on Xbox and PC. I did look for Peter. I found no competing press releases about Unity partnering with GCP or Azure for cloud services. There is a partnership with Unity for GCP for building distributed game things like the control tier. And then I did see an AWS announcement about Unity being embedded into their gamer kit for their gaming services that no one uses. And so net, I feel pretty good about this is another all-in on Azure from a vendor.
I don't understand. When they announced something super similar back in 2020 at CES, announcing their cloud simulation-based product is now multi-cloud compatible with AWS, strategic collaboration with AWS. I don't know, man.
For that. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a quote here from the article. Unity has selected Azure as its cloud partner for building and operating real-time 3D experiences from the Unity engine. In addition, we're excited to work together to make it easier for game creators around the world to publish to Xbox consoles and PC so they can reach their communities.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
they're going to partner with them to get to Xbox consoles for sure and PCs because they're Microsoft based.
Well, and that's where all the gamers are anyways. So
yeah, but I mean, it's not, and nowhere in there is it say all in on Azure. Nowhere. It just says they're partnering with Azure.
They doesn't have the soft language of like our preferred cloud or any of that. It says they're our partner.
They get paid. They get a cheap discount because they said partner. Mm-hmm. Just like they said partner to AWS. Their strategic collaboration with AWS in 2020. I say no joy. January 7th, 2020. Read the blog post. Same blog site.
So as judge in this adjudication, I feel like we need to continue collecting evidence throughout the year, and maybe our end of year special,
our final end of year special, we'll settle this once and for all.
Yeah,
I do have some others that came out that were more in your support of you, Peter, but
you were make the cut.
They were like from months ago, and you were gone for so long that I was like, I don't know when I can talk about these.
You don't get them. You don't show up. You don't get them. Yeah. Too bad.
Yeah. I mean, Boeing and AWS joined forces, but they also, which was the first one I saw, which was that, Boeing and AWS are joining forces. I'm like, well, that's an all in. And then Boeing actually said another press release saying they're actually announcing a partnership with all three cloud providers at the same time. So initially I thought it was an all in thing, but actually it was Boeing saying we're multi-cloud. That's our path. And then AWS was selected as Delta's preferred cloud provider.
We all know. Right. We all know that discounts and funding are often directly tied to a public press release.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
So unless it says exclusive, I contend that it's meaningless. Exclusive. Put that word in there and I'm in, and then I give up. And I declare defeat.
And they wouldn't, right? There's too much risk and liability in that statement.
Because they're not exclusive. That's why they're not exclusive.
And they never want to be locked in to where they have to.
And it's hard to argue because, again, they're using SaaS providers who are on AWS or other places, I'm sure. Plus, Unity's got a bidding war over who wants to be in love with them more, AppLovin or Iron Source right now. So Unity's just trying to get press right now. So anything to distract the market from the fact that there's some nastiness going on in their public filings. So, all right. Well, we'll settle that at the end of the year. We'll come back to it. General availability of VMware VMs protected by site recovery to modernize your experience. You can finally enable Azure Site Recovery to migrate VMware virtual machines from classic protection to modernized protection experience. With this capability, customers can move their existing replications of VMware virtual machines enabled using Configuration Server to the modernized experience using the ASR replication appliance. Migration is guided by smart detection mechanism, which ensures that complete initial replication is not performed again for non-critical replicated items.
Do you feel like that press release went through like a filter or a panel and they were like, it doesn't really speak to our modernized experience? Can you add some modernized experiences? They just added it to the end of every sentence.
Yeah. Well, I was loving that the original one's called classic protection. And now the Azure Site Recovery is modernized protection experience. I'm like, so you went from we're going to replicate the whole block to we're only going to replicate the blocks that changed, and we're supposed to be excited about that. It's sort of like, great, thanks, Microsoft. That's super modern, modern. The fact that most VMs are actually provisioned from the same gold image, and so you probably don't need like 99% of what you have in a VM image would probably be more impressive to me. But just saying, deduplicate across site recovery needs, and then we'll talk about modernized. Well, if you didn't like modernized, I don't know what you're going to say about this next one. The public preview of Serverless SQL for Azure Databricks. Serverless SQL for Azure Databricks, a new capability for Azure Databricks SQL, provides instant compute to users for their BI and SQL workloads with minimal management required and capacity optimizations that can lower overall costs. You only pay for the Serverless SQL when the users start running reports or queries, which in my experience with SQL Server is nonstop.
That's why they can offer it. Honestly, right? It's like, hey, we'll only charge you for when you use it because we know you're always going to use it.
It is really interesting. Like I don't have a workload that I can, apply this, but serverless SQL, like that just
for Azure Databricks, which is the most unserverless product ever.
Yeah. So can you really can you really turn it off and on? I don't know.
I mean, just your health check to keep it, for the load balancer probably pings the SQL database. So like, yeah, it's never serverless really. That's my take on it.
Full table scans just to make sure it's alive.
Yeah. Well, you can now enable VM Insights using Azure Monitor Agent now in preview. Apparently, you currently have to install the Azure Monitor VM Insights agent, which requires a log analytics agent and dependency agent installed in each VM or VM scale set to be monitored. But the public preview will allow you to introduce a version of Insights that makes use of the new Azure Monitor agent and replace the existing log analytics agent. So this is like CloudWatch trying to like have a log agent and a metrics agent, and then they combine them together because no one wanted it. So nice things on that. Modernized.
Yeah.
It makes it now easier to configure using data collection rules to collect VM performance counters. And you have the option to enable or disable processes and dependency data that provides map view, thus optimizing your costs, as well as enhanced security and performance that comes with the Azure Monitor agent and managed identity, which I guess comes from the fact that you don't have two agents running and less attack surface.
I don't know. Hopefully they do this a little better than Amazon did, because Amazon basically with the service management agent just sort of loaded the CloudWatch agent under the covers. So all the dependencies and stuff came with it. So it's like, all right, cool.
Well, and they created that thing on AWS. They did the thing where the configuration got shoved into not secrets, but the parameter store.
Parameter store.
Yes.
And then troubleshooting that parameter store thing and getting access to it was such a nightmare because everyone would forget to enable access to the parameter store as part of their firewall policies. It was great. It was super. I love that feature. It's my least favorite monitoring feature of most of AWS's monitoring features are not great. That one,
it's very useful once you get it set up, but yeah, that initial pull sucks. So yeah, I don't know. And this is hopefully less or more lightweight than that, right? Because this is metrics and monitoring data and outputting that to somewhere you can view it. I hope it's not as sort of full featured as the service manager agent turned into be.
That's fine. Just give everybody admin access.
I mean, it's great because that I like that model. You get rid of SSH connections or remote terminal sessions, and you're forcing everything through an API layer to interact with your infrastructure. That's great, but it's one of those things where if that's your intention, fantastic. When it's not your intention and you're just trying to see if your CPU is busy, it's sort of like, yeah.
Well, for those of you who have listened for a while, you know that the Azure dedicated host recently got support for premium disks. And I said that wasn't good enough. I requested Ultra disks. And Azure has delivered the public preview of Azure dedicated host support for Ultra SSD. Yeah. Ultra disks are the best disks from Azure with throughput, with highly performant disks on Azure that offer high throughput and high IOPS. Now available to you in preview to burn all your money faster. Azure dedicated hosts with Ultra SSD.
I feel like the product team is really painting themselves into a corner because SSD speeds are going to go up at some point.
That's when they're going to come out with Ultra Premium, and then it'll be Ultra Premium Ultra, and then maybe we can get Ultron discs. I don't know.
Yeah,
we could go down a path. Like there's still a lot.
They got a few more. They got a few more. That's true, but
yeah, they have a little of time. I mean, if some new technology comes out that replaces SSD, which I don't know what that would be at this point. Crystal storage or some weird
biological component. Yeah,
it's got to be something crazy. They're in trouble, but we'll see. Well, Microsoft has posted a Magic Quadrant, the first one in quite a while, which either means that this is now Gartner Magic Quadrant update season, or Azure thinks they have something to brag about. I'm not sure which it is. The 2022 Gartner Magic Quadrant for Cloud AI Developer Services. And guess who's in the top right corner? Well,
AWS.
Far right.
Oh, really? Oh.
No. Well, so this is a little tricky on this one because Microsoft is technically farthest to the right, which means they have a more complete vision, but they are slightly down on ability to execute, where Amazon Web Services is not, apparently their vision is not as complete, but their ability to execute is a little bit higher. So it's a little bit of a toss-up between Microsoft and Azure and AWS, depending on what you really want. And Gartner goes through and talks about all of the strengths and weaknesses once again. AWS strengths execution, the highest scoring vendor on ability to execute. Geographic strategy for AWS is better, and the product or service, they say Amazon excels in terms of AI operation and product scalability using Amazon SageMaker, which SageMaker's been around the longest, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Their cautions for AWS: vertical industry strategy, Basically they're too general purpose. They don't have enough cloud verticalization, perhaps, is what they're arguing. They feel Amazon is behind its competitors in terms of responsible AI, which, I can kind of see that. I haven't really seen a lot of AI responsible stuff coming out of AWS. And they're offering a product strategy. They said AWS is the only leader lacking a multi-cloud hybrid cloud vision. So I can tell you right now, if Gartner's going to start dinging AWS for not being multi-cloud on features, we're going to see a lot of multi-cloud announcements. Just so they don't get dung like that. Because that's a kind of a dirty ding, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is.
Google ended up here with strengths due to the market understanding. Google's AI and ML services are appreciated by the developer community, and the release of Vertex AI has integrated its tools for building, deploying, and managing AI and ML models, which, ML people say Google's the best. Innovation in the field of responsible AI. They have a lot of well-defined ethics processes. And their product strategy with Vertex AI and their core AI pipelines is pretty strong, they say. But cautions, the offering strategy is a little bit weak, apparently on neural networks, which I don't know. The business model, as they do not fully support deployment of AI services in private clouds or on premises. And the vertical industry strategy, again, they have a good, strong vertical market offering, but the number of industries they address is smaller than the other cloud providers. And then Microsoft, finally. Apparently, their strength is the business model of giving it away. Works really well for them. Sales execution. Microsoft competes with nimbler numbers in the market by offering its auto ML features for free and charging for compute and storage. And their market responsiveness and track records with over 30 launches in 2021 in the space. They do caution that the geographic portfolio of Azure is not great for their AI ML services and mostly very heavily focused on Americas. The customer experience is terrible, which Microsoft, you get dinged on that on every Magic Quadrant. Yeah. So you probably fix that someday. And then product or service, they say to continue offering a solid product, Microsoft needs to keep up with its competitors in terms of targeting new hardware platforms and accelerators, which is basically saying Microsoft are moving too darn slow, which that's what everyone says about Microsoft.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about the market of AI ML?
The fact that IBM is farther to the right in completeness of vision than AWS definitely scares me. Scares me less about AWS and more about Gartner.
Hey, IBM competed on Jeopardy with Watson. What else do you need to know? Like,
Exactly.
Move that all the way over.
Completeness of commercials, maybe I would give to IBM for sure.
Let me go find IBM real quick here. So they let's see. Watson is number for strengths, products and services. Watson with the Watson family of Watson Assistant, Watson Natural Language Understanding, and Watson Discovery puts them definitely a market understanding with a robust portfolio of CADEs for a wide range of customer needs, and their overall viability with a robust geographic strategy and vertical market focus, which IBM, of course, is well known for. Their cautions were sales strategy because no one wants to buy IBM. Market responsiveness, because Watson hasn't really been innovating very much, and sales execution and pricing, because it's stupid expensive. So, Oracle was in the visionary quadrant by themselves. They're a visionary of their own making. And then Alibaba,
they have sight of maybe offering AI one day. They can,
And then all the China vendors sort of ended up in the challengers bucket, which I thought was interesting too. Alibaba Cloud, Baidu, and Tencent were all sitting there in challengers. So let's see.
Yeah. I suspect some of the China things would be in different places if more information was sort of freely communicated. Like it's hard for an org like Gartner to really get the data they need to really evaluate. But I suspect that even publicly, China, they're off. I think for AI is much further along than we think. I mean, I kind of agree with their strengths and weaknesses for Amazon and Google, right? Like I prefer the Google products, like just from a usability sort of standpoint, but SageMaker really does everything. Like, for that sort of general purpose, it has access to a lot of different things. It's really easy to sort of put that together in the Amazon space and build your solution on top of it. So, yeah. But yeah, I've to be fair, I've never used any of the Azure AI stuff or played around with it, so I don't really know.
So you're saying just get off your lawn at this point?
Old man yells at cloud.
Well, Peter's here, so of course we have to have an Oracle story.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Oracle is making developing on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure easier with the OCI code editor, which all I can think is, wow, Oracle found a new way to audit your usage of Oracle, because you have it in your code that you're using an Oracle connector. They'll know. They'll know now. That's a lawyer item right there. But the code editor makes it easier to edit and deploy code to OCI services directly from the Oracle Cloud Console. You can now update service workflows and scripts without having to switch between the console and your local development environment. The streamlining makes rapidly prototyping cloud solutions, exploring new services, and accomplishing quick coding tasks easier. There are several benefits to this, including focus on the code, not the plumbing, built-in integration with OCI services and the Cloud Shell. It supports 15 languages, including Java, Python, Docker, JSON, YAML, and Terraform. And I want you guys all to know that Oracle says I'm a developer because I can write Docker files. So I'm now officially a developer. I'm going to ask for a pay raise.
Yep.
Source control and workspace management integrated, session continuity, so you can walk away and come back to the cloud experience, and a personalized developer experience, being if you like pretty colors in your IDE, you can define all those things, and with session continuity, they continue to follow you around, so all your bad decisions and colors can be followed.
Hey, you don't mock my RGB theme for my IDE editor, man.
I always lean toward the ones that are named Java or Mocha. I don't know why.
I mean, out of all the cloud features that you could develop and release, like this one isn't really on the top of the list because I just don't. Maybe I'm misunderstanding how difficult it is to get, something like Terraform or something to use the Oracle API to manage the infrastructure side of the code. But I don't know. I've never really liked the browser-based IDEs and that sort of environment. I've always found like the enablements that they do provide, and this extends to Cloud9 and the Google console as well, is it doesn't really offer me the benefit that will make me do all of my development in that one place and that requires an internet connectivity. Just don't see it.
Right. Yeah. See, for me, I don't have a problem with that because I can't write one line of code without immediately having to Google a question how to write that line of code. So I have to be online anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's where the GitHub, Copilot comes in, right? It's just like, well, if you can make sense of my half written word and fill out the rest of the function, I'd be in much better shape.
Yeah. The use case I always come back to is Lambda functions, because debugging and managing Lambda function code or serverless code in general is kind of a pain when you had to go through a complicated Terraform pipeline to get to production, or worse, CloudFormation. And so I see the value in being able to have a full IDE experience for like editing serverless code in the console. Mm-hmm. Like, as long as it ties back to Git and does all the things that you expect an IDE to actually do. So I sort of see the advantage in that scenario. But yeah, for a lot of the other stuff that they mentioned, I'm less sure of the value. But I also have a really nice iPad that I like to code on sometimes. And so having a web IDE on my iPad is sort of nice. So, there is a use case potentially for these things. I just don't know how big it is.
Yeah. And I think it just comes down to a strategy of let's just make tools that make it easier for developers to use our platform, because once they start using it, then if whatever they develop is successful, then production will land in our place as well.
And, if you get developers launching infrastructure in the cloud, they'll never turn it off. It's going to make them lots of money.
And they're going to figure out a way to spend the most possible money per business value as possible. It just happens.
Yep, it does.
And like I said, Oracle can audit you now more because they have access to your source code and they can see how many Oracle parameters you have. So there you go. I can't wait for per parameter pricing. All right. Well, that's it for the main show. Let's take it to the lightning round, Peter.
All right. Let's start with a public preview for Azure Dedicated Host Restart.
Which makes you wonder what happened before this. So Windows, notoriously can only be fixed with a restart. Mm-hmm. So was there hundreds of customers with Azure Dedicated Host just waiting for this feature to restart their Windows box to un-F it? Like, what? Why was this there day one? Like,
you just help support ticket, send somebody to rack 7, server 4, and power cycle it.
So I just assumed that this feature, without reading through, was that they automatically restarted your dedicated host, knowing it needed it because it's Windows.
I mean, that's probably a good best.
That makes a lot more sense.
I mean, I only make fun of the headline. I don't actually make fun of the content. So it might be a really good feature. I just don't know. Yeah. I'm going to make fun of the headline because it's ridiculous.
All right, AWS Data Exchange. By the way, that is absolutely puts Ryan in the lead for thinking about what the feature might actually do, given the fact that nobody read the article. Okay, AWS Data Exchange increases the asset size limit to 100 gigabytes.
Product manager needs a increase in their revenues, so we're gonna let you move more data through through AWS egress traffic, and charge you for that. So thanks, that's great.
Yep.
Expect another $1 billion on the old earnings call next quarter for that feature alone.
Cha-ching.
Amazon Aurora Serverless v1 now supports Postgres 11 and in-place upgrades from Postgres 10.
Apparently, Aurora Serverless v2 carrot of Postgres 11 was not enough to get you to move to v2, and now they've been forced to put it into v1.
Yep, and I'm glad that they've figured out that I'm just never going to update this stuff, and so like if you just update it for me, I'm probably not going to notice, and my code will probably still work.
Yeah. And the serverless v1 API is now broken. No. Amazon SageMaker pipelines now support sharing of pipeline entities across accounts.
Feels pretty half-baked.
Amazon S3 adds a new policy condition key to require or restrict server-side encryption with customer-provided keys.
I love when they give features that are going to be future SRE nightmares of my outage windows. Like, why can't we upload the thing? I don't know. It's weird. It worked fine. Oh, we now need to provide additional parameters. Thanks.
Oh, no, you could upload it, but then you lost the key. So now it's just useless encrypted garbage. So thanks for that.
Appreciate that. It's always great.
AWS Direct Connect expands AWS Transit Gateway support at more connection speeds.
Again, so like if I'm inferring from the title of this, that means it's going to be faster, right? Like 10 gig connectivity, 100 gig connectivity.
No, just more.
No, just 500 megs. That's all they
more options.
There's one more option of 500 megabytes versus a minimum of a gigabyte. Yeah.
$4.99 should be one of the options.
$1.
$4.02.
Give you
That'd be kind of fun.
$9.99 on the data transfer. Egress charges apply.
Introducing Google Cloud and Google Workspace support for multiple identity providers with single sign-on.
So you can now finally stop arguing with IT. Who's in charge? You both could be in charge.
So back in my day, they would call this like multiple personality disorder.
Yes. Multiple identity providers. That is so pointless. I can't handle it. Ryan, winner.
Nice.
Yes.
No particular reason.
You took over Jonathan.
He was talking.
Too. Yeah. I contributed.
He was making sense. Good job.
Yeah,
it's a participant ribbon. I'll take it.
No way. The winner.
The biggest thing about those is that you just passed Jonathan. So
I know
you're now officially in second place.
This is crazy. Yeah.
This is anybody's game this year, man. Peter's non-existence of the podcast for 2 months really helped keep this level. Because normally by this year, someone's way far ahead. By August, it's like, no one's catching up to someone.
Yeah.
No one's catching. Well, by August, it's no one's catching up to Justin.
It's Justin. I like how he's trying to keep it. I
was trying to be humble.
I like it.
You're still you are still the pound for pound champ on the number of punches thrown per round. I mean, it is incredible how many punches per round you throw.
Yeah, they're not always quality, but
that's okay. You know what?
Right. Yeah.
If you throw that many punches, occasionally one of them lands.
Yeah. That's you just need to try harder. That's all.
Yeah.
That's my advice to you, Ryan. Just say it. That makes no sense, and people will think it's funny.
Or sometimes it's like when you're looking at artwork and everyone's looking at it and you can't figure it out, so you just look also, and then it's like that. Like someone will say something, and I don't want people to think I didn't get it, so I'll give that the win.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, you also should know that pop culture references to Peter's youth are very effective in winning this game. So you should be bribing Alex, who's Peter's brother, to give you tips of like what are things that Peter likes, so you can beef up on things and then connect these things to.
I do have a strategy flowchart that goes down through. It goes. There's a couple like topical things, and then there's zingers, and it gets into pop culture. But the sports is really. Mm-hmm. If I can somehow tie a tech preview into the 49ers local going on, then I know I've won. But that's not an easy task.
Nah,
talk about two opposite things.
Yeah. Well, if you want to talk about things that are really opposite from each other, VMworld is coming up August 29th through September 1st. Here at the end of the month, we'll find out all the amazing magic the VMworld is going to bring to continue to keep you locked into your data center.
Do you think they're going to modernize the experience?
They might. You never know. The modern VMware. That's the future. If you're interested in the Power Platform, which for those of you who knew what I said or you're excited and you're going woo, that's September 9th, 18th through the 22nd in Orlando, Florida. Google Cloud Next is going to be virtual. So sad. October 11th through the 13th. Going on there. And then Oracle Cloud World will be in Vegas, October 17th through the 20th. That is in person. If you want to do that, as well as the DevOps Enterprise Summit in October in person in Las Vegas, and KubeCon US coming up as well, end of October, right around the corner, and AWS reInvent. We're still wrapping up the year, I think, after Thanksgiving, November 28th through December 2nd. So lots coming up still in the year. Lots of great announcements, I'm sure, coming to keep us busy here at the Cloud Pod. And that is another fantastic week in the cloud. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and tweet us your feedback at #TheCloudPod. Or join our Slack channel. Go to our website, thecloudpod.net, for sign-up instructions.